Hey.
We are talking The Wretched, this one directed by the brothers Pierce, Brett and Drew. And this one stars John Paul Howard as Ben. Now, I would best describe this movie as Fright Night meets Jaws. That might sound weird, there's no shark in this movie, this isn't a marine horror movie, but just bear with me. So what we have here, Ben is a young guy, 17 I think he's in this movie. And he is going to stay with his father. His parents are getting divorced. They're having a bit of a hard time. And his father works in a marina. And there is, he gives him a job, summer job and that, sorting out all the kind of the boats, and he meets this kind of girl, etc. However, there seems to be this witch-type creature that has sort of infested the next-door neighbours. Now, we see how this witch gets there, and it appears to be this kind of creature that infests other living beings and kind of uses their skin to kind of like move around somewhat undetected. And it gets into the woman next door, and she has two young kids and a husband, etc. And Ben starts to become suspicious of his neighbour. And she's acting weird, and the kind of like their little boy seems very scared, and this witch seems to have some supernatural powers to make people forget, because she eats the children and then makes basically people forget that they even had children, so the husband is none the wiser that his children are kind of missing and things like this. And obviously, the witch is now aware of Ben's interest in her, and what will happen, you have to watch the movie to find out. So it very much sounds like your Fright Night premise there, which of course is inspired by Rear Window. And we have seen many movies have this kind of premise. We've recently had The Shed, we've recently had Summer of '84, we've had Never Cry Wolf. There's been absolutely tons of, especially horror movies, that have had this kind of premise, but even non-horror movies like Disturbia have had that kind of same premise. But why Jaws? Well, like I said, this movie has nothing to do with sharks, but the way this creature is kind of depicted in this movie is almost this creature that you don't really ever see until right at the end, even when it's inhabiting the body of someone else who, for all intents and purposes, looks kind of normal. The camera is normally sort of always slightly obscured somehow, so you never really get to see, even when this creature is possessing someone, all that much of them. And it really works because it makes this kind of unseen presence very much like the shark under the water. It doesn't hurt also that this is set by a marine town where we do have this kind of setting of, the boats out in the water and stuff like this, and this kind of seaside sort of style, kind of resort type place. And then we have the finale of the movie where the final kind of climax almost takes place in the home turf, if you like, of the antagonist here. So, you might think it's a little bit of a push kind of saying this kind of reminds me of Jaws, but it just has that sort of that unnerving feel that Jaws has, because this threat is almost undetectable to a certain degree, and kind of people don't believe it. So we're just reminded, not necessarily of the actual shark and stuff, but just the feeling that you get whilst watching Jaws. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, yeah, you could also say it's very much in the vein of movies like The Hollow and things like that, where we have this kind of like this dark fairy tale style horror movie. What works? So as you can probably tell, this is fairly high praise comparing it to two films that I personally really, really love. And this movie deserves that plaudits. I think it's expertly directed. And the movie, although it doesn't really show you the antagonist, so to speak, until a good look at it right until the end, you're not left hanging until right at the end, until you get horror. This movie has peppered throughout the film some pretty scary scenes. There's quite, a fairly decent kind of intro to it. And then we have this kind of unpredictable creature stalking its prey, and this young boy, Ben, who seems to kind of like be getting kind of used to the idea. And of course the threat of people not believing him, because obviously it sounds kind of crazy and stuff like that. And it was just, it was a great movie, building up tension and having this really kind of creepy atmosphere, peppered with scenes that are quite gruesome, and even, inferred violence, because we know this witch eats children, and we do see that there are children that sadly go missing through the movie. You kind of know what's happened to them. And even though we don't see much of child death, there is a few scenes where we do see it. Nonetheless, you know it's happening, and therefore it's kind of shocking before it, because it does give you an example right at the beginning about the fate of kind of such children. We do see a few bits of evidence through the movie as well. I thought the acting here was very good, and I mean it really helps with this kind of the direction and the cinematography here, that the people in this movie, especially those who are kind of possessed by this witch, do a great job through both physical acting, lighting and special effects to create a really genuinely creepy atmosphere. I really enjoyed our character Ben, because he is a likeable guy, but he is that kind of a little bit unpredictable in his own right, because obviously he's having to go through some stuff with his parents breaking up, so he's acting out a little bit. I actually quite enjoyed his interplay between his kind of like his father, who seems quite kind of reasonable and things like this, so you didn't feel like their kind of relationship didn't ring true or anything like that, because it really did. You really did feel like these were, legitimate kind of family members and stuff like that. And his kind of relationship with, his potential love interest, it's not overplayed, it's kind of just a hint at it, which I thought was very, very good here. And the child actors as well, I thought were excellent. The special effects we do to him are very well done. Really helped by some great cinematography with some lighting and stuff here as well, and a great use of Foley effects, which is kind of your sound effects here, to really plus the scenes and give them some scary ambience and stuff as well. The story, although admittedly it's not particularly original, keeps you to the edge of your seat and will entertain you right through to the end. So do I have anything negative to say? Well, let's be honest, the movie is somewhat of a plot that we have seen kind of rehashed many times before. There are a few differences here, some minor differences between kind of like, Fright Night, Rear Window and the kind of the rest of them, but the basic story is more or less the same. And the only other couple of things maybe I would say is there are a couple of instances here where I feel the movie just leans on convenience a little bit too much here and there. I don't give any spoilers, but there's just one or two instances here where I think, well, that was convenient, either in a positive or negative kind of manner. And the movie can't help but do the FU ending, which is just a trope that I really don't like. Although, admittedly, this one is somewhat ambiguous, which maybe was a bit of a better way to go here. But overall, I've got to say, I really, really enjoyed this movie. It was a quality-made film, quality storytelling with great acting. And, okay, maybe not an original story here, but nonetheless, it's an entertaining one. And I think we'll tick the box of both people who like scary and spooky, but also somewhat gory, although maybe not excessively. A great film. I would highly recommend this one. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Definitely a contender for my top 10 of 2020. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.